Welcome to the Winning Mentality Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Biwu. Today we got a special guest, my sister, Marisa Woo. We're going to talk about our upbringing, how we became coaches, how we actually found our niche and figured out, our lane in the industry. Because there's so many different things you could do, and we actually train and have different clients from completely different worlds. So we're going to dive into that. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce my sister. She's going to introduce herself, talk a little bit about herself, and then we'll get into it.
What is up, guys? My name is Marisa Woo. I'm Biwu's little sister. I am an IFBB bikini pro. I own my own business. It's Team PX3, which is Peak Performance and Posing. I'm primarily dealing with female athletes who want to be bodybuilders, contest prep, or have a lifestyle change, whether that be weight loss or grow muscle or just body recomp. So I've been in the bodybuilding industry since 2016. I studied kinesiology at San Diego State University. Honestly, I followed my brother's footsteps. So I started in hospitality. I wanted to be an event planner. I found fitness and I fell in love. I started bodybuilding, so I changed my major to kinesiology fitness specialist. And from there, everything just fell into place. I just really honed in on my fitness goals and everything. From there, I started getting people asking for advice, on social media. And I thought, okay, well, this is my calling. I really liked helping people, whether that should be working out with them or just giving advice. And I'm like, well, why not make this a career? So switched to kinesiology, graduated 5.5 years later.
Yeah, same here.
Our parents were not happy. They're like, what is going on? Why are you guys taking so long to graduate college and then go own your own business? That's something that we'll dive into. Our generation, there's a lot of entrepreneurs in our generation.
Definitely.
I think what, maybe 5+ years ago, that was not a normal thing. And our parents, come from that generation of you go to college, you get a degree, and you work your 9 to 5, and you have a set salary. Brandon and I obviously picked the same avenue together, which I think did worry our parents a little bit and our grandparents. Being an entrepreneur and having social media be a platform of advertisement is hard. It's scary, and I think for our parents, they're a little hesitant to see that and see that trust process.
Mhm.
But I also think that Brandon and I have come up in a world where we were athletes. We always knew how to work hard for something. That just translated into how we are with business owners. And here we are now.
We made it.
Yeah, owning our own businesses,
Still
our own
going strong.
teams. Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into that. As Marissa said, we're at where we're at, but that doesn't come from just out of nowhere, right? We have this thing that we built up from our childhood, and being from an athletic background, actually, even our parents were pretty athletic. Our dad was always kind of the more athletic guy in his school too. He ran track, played sports, did all the sports basically. And so that was a big influence on me, starting baseball, basketball, even all the snow sports too. We would ski and snowboard all the time during the winter. And then our mom, she was always, back in her days, she was always into fitness. I think she kind of did a
She did
little
the fitness classes and she kind of dabbled in, she almost wanted to bodybuild, but she didn't at that point, but she was at the gym. Funny story, our parents actually met at a gym.
They did meet at the gym.
And I think that I make a
Oakland,
joke.
I think, right? In Oakland?
Yeah, Oakland. And so my dad was lifting whatever, and our mom was doing a Zumba class or something. And I guess my dad saw her and from afar and was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna wait for this girl to come out of Zumba class." And I think I always say, well, that's how Brandon and I found our love for fitness, is because you guys found each other in the gym. But yeah, so
that definitely stems from why we're where we're at, and the career path we chose is because it was just rooted in us through our family. It was just a big thing. Maybe not so much huge into sports until I started playing.
Yeah.
We didn't really get super invested into baseball until my dad was like, you know what, maybe you have a shot to exceed and go on to the next level. So he would put that determination and work into me, making me hit baseballs every day after school, right in front of our driveway, just hitting balls into the net. sometimes hit Marissa's window because hers was like right above the
Like,
garage.
shut up.
And like back then too, we were always just outside running, riding our bikes, scooters, all that kind of stuff. And I think around what, maybe middle school, you started doing dance,
Yeah, elementary to middle
elementary.
school, I was doing competitive dance, but at the same time, we all dabbled at like a little softball, a little
Yeah.
soccer, a little track
It
and
was like
field,
try everything.
everything. Our parents very much so wanted us to try everything so that we knew what we liked and had the ability to choose what we wanted to pursue. Mind you, Brandon was not allowed to do football.
What could have been.
I think I actually would have been an amazing soccer player. I was like a short, little fast, spicy girl, but of course I chose basketball. My all 5'2" of me chose to be a basketball player, which couldn't go D1 in that, but that's okay because I really do think, what Brandon was saying, we've always been fitness, sport oriented within our family, like activity wise. Our parents never made us do any sports, but we chose that. And I do think I speak for both of us. We're naturally athletic.
Yeah.
It wasn't a struggle. I think, any sport we played, we were always like a first round pick in like the youth teams for basketball or baseball
Pickup
or
games or something like that.
yeah. And we always made like the all-star team. We played travel ball. Like we were very invested and we loved it. And I do think that plays a huge role in how we are as athletes and coaches. Our upbringing really taught us how to have mental grit and that tenacity in pursuing whatever it is that we wanted to do.
Yeah. And I think where maybe both of our careers ended, mine was in college after my first year, didn't quite make the baseball team. Then I got injured.
Pretty bad.
And then I think, Marissa, you were a sophomore or maybe junior in high school.
When that happened,
And
I was sophomore.
sophomore, and you tore your ACL or MCL?
I kept dislocating my knee and my shoulder actually, but my knee primarily, and I was playing basketball.
And then there was a time where we were both in a
Crippled.
cast, like crutches on the couch, like literally just sitting like, damn, like we're both hurt
Yeah,
right
we're
now. Like,
like,
what are we supposed to do?
damn.
But I think that kind of changed our mindset of like, all right, maybe we can't just rely on athleticism.
Mhm.
We have to like figure out, what we want to do, what the work is going to take. And in college, for me, like we said, we both were studying kinesiology. I went the PT route first and then finally found my niche at Perform for Life when I started doing more functional training classes. But then when you got to college,
Mhm.
you were kind of bouncing around. We were at the same college at USF for like a year.
Not even half
You're
a
in
year.
SD State. You're like, I was like, what are you doing? We're
I
going
was,
back and forth.
to be honest, I was following a boy at the time. Don't do that,
I know.
ladies. Don't do that.
I was giving her the shit for it.
I'm very much so like when I'm headstrong about something, which is it could be a blessing and a curse. I'm all in, whether that be being stupid and being like, oh, I don't want to go to SCSU anymore. I want to go to USF. I made a whole PowerPoint for my parents. Like, this is why I should come back to USF, be closer with
You did
Brandon,
do that, actually.
be, be closer with my family. I'm a NorCal girl. I got here for half a semester. That ex and I at that time were like, this isn't working out. I was like, I actually want to go back to SCSU, and I made a PowerPoint said it's actually cheaper than USF, so we should probably go back.
Hence the 5 years.
Literally, I dug myself a hole.
But then you went back, and I think you kind of like found yourself, right? Like, how did you get into like competitive like bodybuilding? Like, where was the avenue? Did you just like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym, and then it found you, or did you seek it out?
A little combination of both. So, I mean, as we were talking about, so I didn't go to college for sports. Brandon did. But I absolutely love basketball. So I played intramurals in college for the first 2 years.
Mm.
And then there's a point where like my love for playing basketball wasn't as strong because I wasn't going anywhere with it. And so, when you're used to like we were upbringing, we always had practice after school. We
Yeah,
had
every
scrimmages,
day.
games, tournaments. And when I
Yeah,
got
that
to
structure.
college, yeah, and we never had like a dead time, whether we were off season or whatever. We always had what is it, travel ball and
Yeah,
whatnot. So we
yeah.
never really had a chill time. So when I got to college, it felt weird. I didn't have something that I had to do, a regimen that I had to follow. So I found hypertrophy training. So it's just training in the gym, lifting weights. And, when you first get into it, you don't really know what you're doing. You're just kind of going off whatever posts or YouTubes that you saw. You're just doing some weird circuits. But I had
Mm.
something. And I fell in love with just having that as something I could work on myself. And from there, then I really started following the YouTubes and people on Instagram, and learning, okay, what's a training split? How do I grow that muscle? And how do I lose body fat while maintaining muscle? And then I was like, I really like this. And then that's when social media was really booming at
I
the
was gonna
time.
say like it just started
Really,
really popping off for
yeah, it
like
was
for
more
fitness like specifically,
monetized,
right?
yeah, on social media at that time. And so I started seeing, like, influencers that were, trainers or fitness influencers, and then I saw bodybuilders, and I was, I think, a sophomore in college, and I was like, I don't know if I can bodybuild and do prep and do, the regimen and the course
Hmm.
for school at the same time. There were a few girls at SDSU who were doing that, and I just kind of picked their brain. I said, well, how do you guys do this? Like, I want to see if I can bodybuild, prep, and go to school at the same time. And I said, you know what? Full send. I'm going to do it.
It was a full send.
It was a full set because, mind you, I was in a sorority. I was an event planner for the sorority. I was all like Greek life and everything, like parties at SDSU, event planning for my degree. And I was like, no, this isn't my calling. And I switched. I said, okay, I want to go kinesiology. I don't want to be in the sorority anymore. I moved out of the sorority. I dropped the title that I had in the sorority. They didn't really like me for doing that. Okay, though.
But like mind you, I'm just starting out too as well, like almost graduating college and finding my lane. And at that time I was like I still was brand new to it, so I didn't know the other fitness world like
Yeah.
bodybuilding. I just knew like, all right, this is what I want to work on. Maybe I want to work with athletes, and that was like my lane, but I wasn't really thinking there was a whole nother lane.
Hmm.
And so when you first started, I was blown away, but also kind of confused. It was like, oh, I did like this is what you want to do. Like it didn't make sense at the time, um, especially when like you would come home from like break, and then we'd go out to dinner or something, and you're like pulling out your scale and like your own seasoning. I was like, what is
You're
this
like,
girl
what are
doing?
you
Why are we
doing?
eating here right now if you're gonna bring your own stuff? Along the way, obviously, it made more sense, right?
Hmm.
But now that we're talking about that, when you first started that and you're in school, was it like kind of mind blowing of like, man, there's a lot I have to do?
Yeah.
Um, and how did you kind of navigate around that, especially for people, who want to work with you and they're in school or they're just, starting their career, but they also want to do, competitive bodybuilding? Like, what did you do and how could you influence other people to do it?
It's a whole lifestyle change. At that point I was 20 or 19 or 20. So you think I've got 19, 20 years of just living my life normally.
Yeah.
So to change it to tracking everything that I put in my mouth, bring a scale everywhere, having to do my cardio, having to do my training, I'm very regimented now. And now I don't even know how I lived life before. Like I don't even know how I
Right.
ate before. But I think, the biggest advice is, well, first, give yourself some grace. You can't
Definitely.
go 0 to 100 off the bat. It's a learning process, and everything is a learning curve. But you do want to surround yourself with people who are going to support you and understand you,
Hmm.
because, like you said, this lifestyle, or if you decide to pursue bodybuilding or even just a lifestyle change, it's hard because people don't understand. They're like, why not? Why don't you've said this to me a few times now? You know not to, like, just take a bite, like
Yeah.
just take it. I'm like, well, I can't. I'm on prep.
You're out here smelling all the food.
Yes, I
So you
I
know what eat
smell
it.
food. I remember one Christmas I just made so much crap food for him and my stepbrothers because I was like, eat it all so I can just watch you guys eat it. I get so much joy from watching people eat food. But that's the other thing. It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding's not for everyone. But I thoroughly enjoy every part of the process. And I would never make someone feel um like awkward that I'm not eating the food that you're eating, or make you feel bad. Like I always say, if that is going to be something that ends up happening down the road where you make other people around you, feel bad for you, or you take it out on them because you're hangry, I'm like, well, then that's not for you.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, your question is like, how did I navigate through and find like my rhythm, and how I became, adequate at this lifestyle. It's learning what works for me.
Mm.
Some people, like, can't do the meal plan, so they do macros.
Right.
Some people need more structure because, say, they're nurses, they work those 12-hour
Right.
shifts.
Right.
They just want to be told what to eat. When it comes to training cardio, it's not a one size fits all. Like, you can ask any of my athletes. There are some girls who can't do 6 days of day cardio for 45 minutes. So I'm like, okay, well, here's your set cardio for the week. 200 minutes, split it how you need to.
Right.
Here are your meals, here are substitution options. It's like I said, it's not a one size fits all, especially because it's your life. You don't want to feel a slave to your plan. So for myself, my coach gives me macros. I create a meal plan out of that, out of the food sources that I like and that I enjoy. When I go out to eat, I know how to navigate going out to eat and tracking. That takes some time.
Yep.
Like if my brother and my dad or my mom and I want to go out, I'm like, oh, where are we going? Cheesecake Factory. Okay, I can factor in. I can get a grilled chicken breast, a side of potato or rice, or go to Thai food. They steam everything. Chinese food, they can steam everything. It's a learning process. But the caveat to that is that while you're learning, there's so much information out there. There's so many YouTubes and Instagram and Reels now. Like you can just look up like how to travel and track your food or something like that. So that's a good thing. There's a lot of information to help people out there too.
Yeah. And well, with that, I mean, you were training, and that's just almost one side of it, right? Just the diet and the
Yes.
tracking. Like a lot of people, even from on my side, when I'm training people, their goal is, I want to lose 20 pounds and I want to do this, I want to do this. I'm like, okay, let's take a step back because you might be new to training. So I don't want you to train and then also worry about what you're eating, right? Because you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
Then you're not going to want to come back, or you're not going to want to do, follow the program. So take a step back. For me, there's no real goal or competitive like competition that they're going to be doing. So it's not like, all right, we need to meet this deadline.
Yeah.
It's, hey, let's take it one step at a time. Let's try to work out for 20 minutes a day or work out for an hour for 2 times a week, right? Something like that. And then eventually, if we see some progress, now we can step up to the next level. But on your end, it's like you have a set date sometimes. So there is kind of like a pushback of the learning curve, but also if you want to get to where you want to get to, like, how do you basically change your mindset of like, all right, I really need to get dedicated and, I need to do 45 minutes every day or something like that, right? So what is the mindset change in all of that?
And that is, I think that's a great question. It's like mental tenacity, mental grit. You can't teach that.
Yeah.
People either have it or they don't. Maybe it becomes stronger in terms of how committed you are to
Right.
your
Create
goals.
habits and stuff like that.
I do think from the many athletes I've worked with, when an athlete, I'm sure you're the same, when athletes start seeing their progress, whether that means their strength in the gym, their ability to push more, or the physical appearance or changes, or the number on the scale, or even, I ask like each check-in that my athlete has, I'm like, what's the mental mindset this week? And they're like, what are the small wins? Hey, I was at work and they had all the Christmas treats and I wasn't even tempted. That's growth and progress within yourself and the regimen that you're in. And like I said, you can learn to be more driven and committed over time, maybe by seeing what you're capable of. But as far as like you bodybuilding, I do tell my girls, I'm like, look, I will always reiterate what they put in their questionnaire or our consult, and that's why I do these, because I want to make sure I know what their goal is, and I'm a mama bear. Like I have like harsh love.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very nurturing, and you can ask any of my girls. I'm Mama Woo, but I won't sugarcoat.
Yeah.
I'm like, you said you wanted to get that pro card, you want to win that overall. I said these are your words verbatim. I'm gonna hold you to that. And if those goals change, that's fine.
Right.
Let me know. But there's also what you're saying. There's stepping stones to that. I may tell someone, hey, you may say you want to do a show, but let's take our time like you. Let's take baby steps, because you may want to compete in 2025, but you may not be mentally or physically ready.
Right.
So let's go through phases. Let's do a cut, see where we're at when we're leaner. Then let's build on top of that leaner foundation. And then let's now cut back down for a show. That may mean you end up doing a show in February, March 2026. Doesn't mean that the goal is not going to happen. It's just prolonged.
Right.
But what Brandon was saying is, we go, say someone starts in a program with us and they're 25 years old. You can't expect to get to your dream body, your dream goal in 2 months. You spent 25 years in the physique that you're in now, in the habits that you're in. It's going to take time to break those habits.
Yeah. And so how did you figure out what worked for you? Because before we get into more of your business and working with your clients, you were competing for what, 3-4 years almost straight, just on your own, and then you finally found out what you wanted to do. But like, you went 3 years like hard, and kind of boast about it because I know you won a lot of awards, and that kind of is what set you up to actually have clients and grow your business. But go into, what it was like competing, the habits that you changed. And I wish we had it here, but she actually won a sword that I
Yeah.
want because the thing is like longer than my
It's a real
snowboard.
sword. It's a legit sword. I think it's as long as your snowboard,
Yeah,
actually.
it was legit.
Um, yeah, so when I started competing, like I said, I was in a sorority at first, and the girls didn't really like support it, approve it, and I was like, you know what, that's okay. You're just not my people anymore. But when I went, when you start seeing, like I was saying, when you start seeing results and you start seeing abs and you start seeing how lean you can get, mind you, and I won't lie, and I've said this before on other podcasts and my stories, that you start getting attention. You start getting the compliments, and that does it feels good.
Yeah.
You want to hear it more. You're like, well, people are recognizing what I'm capable of. Um, and then I started competing more. My first year competing, I won the novice overall. I got qualified for a national show, which so the tier system is you do a regional show, you get qualified for a national show. If
Gotcha.
you win your class or top two, you then become a pro. And the pro league is where you can get to Olympia, which is like the Super Bowl bodybuilding. So won a novice overall, got nationally qualified, went to national shows. Didn't do the best at national shows. I was still new. I did 5 shows in the first season I did. In that time frame, I won an overall. So that's like the open overall. Then went to a national show again. Did pretty good there. Got I think like 10th place, which you want to get top 5, you want to get top 2. I said, okay, take the feedback, let's grow, and put on some more muscle and then come back next year. So I did that for a span of a few years back to back. I would take the off season in winter time frame, start prep up again after my birthday in January, hit the circuit. I went then, I have a whole competition history breakdown. I've done 30 shows
Damn.
total. Yeah, I did a lot. Every year I average about 5 or so. And so in 2018, I earned my pro card at Junior Nationals in Chicago. And from there, that's when you can enter the pro league. I started competing in the pro league. And this is like when you go from, whether it's high school or D1, and then you go to the pro leagues. You're in a whole new ball game.
Yep.
And you are a small fish in a big pond again.
Yeah, these people are all seasoned. They're just like you, and
Yes.
they're getting after it as much as you are, if not
Literally.
more.
And this is where, we talk about mental tenacity, is that you don't feel like going to the gym, you don't feel like doing cardio, you feel like cheating on your diet. Well, person XYZ out there that's going to be standing on stage with you is on their shit. And you need to be on it too, because at the end of the day, the judges don't care if you did or didn't follow your plan. They care about how you look on stage. And you want to be able to step on stage, and just like how you would be like where if you're like pitching on the mound, like you did everything in your power to bring your A game. So that's, that continued to ferment in my mind every single time I was prepping. And so when I was in the pro league, my first full season in the pro league was 2019. And I remember I was not placing the best. I mean, as a rookie, I was placing okay. I was getting, center of second call outs multiple times. And so a call out is like, I'm trying to figure out how to use an analogy. So
You gotta explain to me because
I
I don't know.
so in bodybuilding, say you have a class. So each division has classes. And when you're pro, there's just one. There's no height classes. There's just one. So bikini, open class. So a first call out is like where you want to be. That's where you get the top 5, the top 7. You want to be in that mix. The first call out means the judges saw you, they remember you, and they want to call you out. Second call out is the second call out, like second team, like first starting 5 in an NBA team, and then the guys off of the bench. So that's second calls. Then there's third call outs, fourth call outs, because however many people there are. I was getting second call outs, maybe third call outs, and I wasn't happy. I was like, okay, well, I just came off of like being a really good amateur, placing in top 5 at national shows all the time. And then now I'm in the pro league. Finally, at the end of that season, I think I did 4 or 5 shows that year. My last show of that season was in Texas, and I was really just like, okay, let's just end the year out. It's only a few more weeks until this show, and let's just see what the judges say. Well, I got second place at that show, which is one place away from going to Olympia, which is, like I said, the Super Bowl bodybuilding. And I was like, okay, I belong.
So is that in a span of what, a couple months or like the whole year?
For the shows that I did that.
Yeah. From the
So
first one where you only got the second call out to second place overall.
that was the span of. So that year, I did a majority of the shows at the end of the year, which isn't smart because you want to be strategic. But that was October till December. Mind you,
Okay.
a prep is
Right.
20 weeks or so. So you got to think I'm a 30-week prep, really, which is honestly, it's normal. That's actually standard for bikini athletes. We just kind of, what we call it, run the circuit. You just go show after show after show, which is great because there's a lot of shows in my division. But at the same time, you got to be strategic. After that, I was like, okay, well, I belong. The following year, I got a few first call outs again. I'm not winning though. The year after that, again, I got a top 4, a top 5. So I'm placing consistent in that first call out. Mind you, there are a few shows where I'm 7th place or 6th place or 8th place. So it's here's the thing about bodybuilding: it's not black and white. Whereas you throw a pitch, that's a strike.
Yeah.
You throw the ball in the basket, you score in basketball. With bodybuilding, the criteria is, yes, they have a set amount of, XYZ for the criteria, but it's what's the majority on stage. So who fits the criteria best? It's subjective. Judges are judging you with their keen eye, but it's not, the rules aren't the balls in the basket that counts for the other team. And that's the hardest part about bodybuilding. I always say you have to have tough skin. Because you're literally putting your body out there. You're half naked, prancing around in a sparkly bikini in heels. What is that? And I'm very aware of that, especially as a coach. I do have to tell my athletes, like, look, I've dealt, like, I'll be honest, and Brandon can attest to this. He saw my butt on social media 10 too many times.
Scrolling, I'm like, yo, throw the photo away.
And my mom had to sit down and explain to him, like, it's not a sexual, I mean, you can make it a sexualized sport, but it's not a sexualized sport in terms of like what I'm showcasing. And yeah, it's surprising. So this is the hard part about my niche, is that it's a very specific niche and in terms of what it is for a sport.
Yeah.
We are half naked, most 90% naked on stage, and we're asking judges to rip us apart and tell us what's wrong with us. And then, like I said, family members, it comes as a surprise, because you got to think, someone who loves bodybuilding, who's following bodybuilding, I'm scrolling on social media. All my friends are bodybuilders. All my significant others the past few years have been bodybuilders. So I'm surrounded by it.
Right.
You're not. Family members are not. Cousins, aunts, uncles are not. So when they see me posting online, like naked almost,
it's very shocking.
It is. Sure. And I'm showcasing muscle. I'm showcasing my perspective on it, perception on it, is showing women how to be confident and build something that they never thought capable. But I had to explain that to you.
Yeah.
And I always tell people who are interested in this, you may have been like in this world for a while, but it's still new to the people around you. So give them time as well, because they have to acclimate to your new lifestyle.
Yeah. And I think you put it best, of like, you're showcasing your body, but for sport, not just to go out there and like twirl around and flex on them.
Yes.
It's like, it's a real sport, and the dedication and work that it takes is, like you said, 20 weeks of prep. Like that's just for one season, And you're doing that constantly over and over again. Back in, you said your pro card was in 2019? 2018. So 2018 to about when, I guess before the pandemic. Did you start coaching before that?
I started coaching 2018 into 2019.
Okay, so you were competing. People were like seeing that you at a national level. You're still doing really, really well. People were interested. So how did that first, kind of meeting go with maybe even your first client, or how did you get into the coaching space? Was it something that you were like, oh, I want to do it, I want to try, or was that just the next level from competing and then into coaching?
I love when someone asks me this, because with social media and this bodybuilding industry, it's so congested. So many people, every person and their mother is a coach now because they did one show.
Right.
And I do have a little bit of an issue with that because I ensured that I got my degree, I got my certifications. I had a plethora of experience on my belt
Hmm.
from not just competing, but also just watching other coaches, learning from other coaches. So again, I got my degree in personal training and nutrition. I also got my degree in kinesiology with a fitness specialist emphasis. And I made sure that I did all those things before taking someone's health
Yeah.
into my own hands. And then also with I'm also a posing coach as well. I went to so many seminars and shows to learn first. So my first instinct was, okay, if I'm going to take someone on, I'm going to do lifestyle first. I'm not going to put someone's contest prep
Or
in
like,
my hands till
got
I
you.
felt
Makes sense.
I was ready. Even though I did so many shows, I don't want to
It's
put someone on
different
stage
doing it
yet.
for yourself as opposed to helping somebody else.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're look at you. You're learning someone's different biomechanics, their anatomy, their biofeedback. It's a science, and this is where I do have a problem with so many people wanting to be a coach. I'm like, are you just copying and pasting what your coach gave
Mm.
you? And I've continued education is huge for me. I've invested in more seminars for myself for hormones and specific training, as well as internships with high level bodybuilding coaches. Even though I'm not coaching male bodybuilders, there's so many intricacies with hormones and, like I said, biofeedback that you can read through. And I'm big on admitting that I don't know everything so that I can continue to learn and know that I have so much more to learn. So then from that, I did lifestyle. I had great transformations here and there. Um, I always tell people there's so many girls who ask advice on like how to start a coaching business,
Yeah.
and you know, both of us can attest to that. It is not easy starting a business, getting clients and having that rapport. It takes time. The first objective you should have is making transformations, not making money,
Yeah.
because you're not going to make money if people don't see what you're capable of.
Exactly.
So my first year of coaching, I did a challenge, which challenges are kind of phased out now,
Yeah. It's a good
but
way to start though,
it
for
is
sure.
it's a good way. My best friend Ashlyn, actually, we're both same coaches, bodybuilding, bikini athletes, blah blah. She told me do a challenge, make everyone's whatever price point, whatever it's $200. You have 12 weeks. The end goal, if you complete the challenge, you get half of the money back or something.
Okay.
So it's incentive based. So that's what I did. And then from there, again, I did lifestyle. And then I took on my first contest prep athlete. I believe it was the end of 2018 or the beginning of 2019.
Okay.
I was nervous. I was so freaking nervous. And
just one person.
I think I maybe had like
Maybe a couple.
a few like who inquired, but I remember like the first one I put on
I see.
stage. And I remember people have asked me like now years later that this is my niche. People were like, "How did you get confident in
Right.
coaching?" And I'm like, it took some time because you're second guessing yourself. You're like, well, okay, do they need to fill out more? Do I need to pull back
Right.
water? Like it's
Because
like
you're also in a way not necessarily judging, but you're going to be nitpicking even more to making sure that you're getting this person's physique as close to where you think and where she thinks, but also what the
yes,
other judges might think.
yes.
And so yeah, I can see that being like
It was
pretty tough.
it was nerve wracking, and mind you, she did great and she looked good, but it's like I look back on that, and now when I'm prepping people, when I'm peaking people, it is like second nature. I know exactly what I'm looking at. I know when someone's flat. I know when they need more food. I'm to the point where I'm backstage with them, and I'm not like, okay, weigh out this. If I'm backstage with them, I'm like, here's the rice cake. I'm slathering like peanut butter on. I'm drizzling honey. I'm like, I'm eyeballing. That's perfect. That's gonna fill you up perfectly. Sip that amount of water, like, and it's a learning curve.
Right. It's another learning curve
It
now that you are getting
yes,
into coaching.
yes, and I absolutely love it because it is a science, and I love it because it sounds so cliche, but when my girls step on stage and I see
Mm.
the light up in their face and they're like, I'm on stage showcasing everything I worked hard on, I'm like, that is my purpose. Like that's my why. And so, I learned. So after that client, I obviously got more and I got more inquiries. I turned an athlete pro in 2019. That was my first pro card. She was in Australia actually.
Mm.
And here's the other thing. It's like, online coaches have a rap for not getting back to people, like
Yeah.
just setting random plans. I've got girls in Taiwan, Singapore, the Philippines. I just had someone compete in the Philippines. I stay up till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., then I take a little nap, and then I wake up again and I make sure they're ready for finals. But this is the thing is like when you love what you do, it comes
Yeah, it's
naturally.
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you wake up at the butt crack of dawn every day and you get after it. You go coach your athletes, but it's like when you love what you're doing, again, it sounds so cliche. You're not working a day in your life. And I think this is where, our parents and our grandparents were a little hesitant, a little scared because it is scary, your son or your daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter are going off and they're in charge of their own salary, their own
Yeah.
income. The one thing with us with our business is we don't have a safety net. We're not on salary. It fluctuates. Our months to months fluctuate. Mind you, I do think we make a very good amount, but we're also in charge of doing our own taxes and
Yep.
whatnot. Like there's a lot that goes into owning your own business, but I will say time and time again, it is so well worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like on the pro side, you get to make your own schedule.
Yes.
Like, yes, I'm waking up at 6 a.m., but usually I'm done by 12 or whatever it is. And I'll have the rest of the day to, one, focus on the business, focus on myself, maybe take a nap or two, but yeah, it gives you more flexibility, which I love because I kind of need it in this fitness world too. Like I need the flexibility to be able to run the business as a whole too, right? And
Yeah.
working with clients is fun because it almost, like you said, it's fun. It takes away it takes your mind off of everything else because it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm dragging my feet, I got to go to work. Like I get to go see my clients and have fun and train them and do all those kind of things. So the same way, you even get to travel with your clients,
Yeah.
travel to their shows, right? And of course, that's a whole nother world too, because you had to do that. You had to travel, wherever you had to go, and manage your time that way. But with that, I think we both found some common areas within our coaching, even though everything is completely different in terms of what we're coaching or who we're coaching,
Yeah.
right? With your coaching style, are you doing more online or are you doing in person? Like where does the accountability and the coaching part come from?
So I'm all online. Every single thing's online. I don't do anything on the floor in person anymore.
Okay.
I did for a little bit when I was living in San Diego. I did a little bit of in-person training because at the time, majority of my girls were in Southern California area, but I've obviously drastically expanded to international and across obviously all the U.S. Um, I create training programs, and what I do so. The way I lay out my programming is I have a training library. I tell them the set movements I want them to do, and then they send training check-in videos. So a little bit of kind of what you do. Like I'm looking at, range of motion, execution, intent, and time under tension tempo.
Yep.
But there's also a great thing about this is that I have friends from all over. So if I need to source out and make sure that they're getting adequate training and I need someone to push them through, I have a few trainers, someone in Texas, someone in Vegas, someone in Canada. Like I'll refer out if they need a trainer.
Gotcha.
Most of my athletes, I do feel like I've been attracting a lot of higher level athletes. So they do have an understanding of training.
Right.
But we can always learn. So I still have them sending in training videos, check-in videos. Now my posing, if I'm in the area, I'll do in-person posing. If not, I'm going to do it online as well. I think that's the great thing about what we do is that we can do a lot of things online. But other than that, everything's on WhatsApp. So my check-ins, my
Gotcha.
communication, that platform, for me, that's just the most efficient way for coaching.
I like that. With that, we will take a break. We'll revisit on the other side in the next episode. But I think one takeaway we can take from today is that even though we come from the same household, got the same last name, we kind of dove into two different avenues of fitness, but the base and the foundation of our training kind of stems from the same thing, same, education of kinesiology, working hard to get our certifications, working with clients, learning on the go, but also learning about ourselves and growing a business at the same time, right? We are aiming to, one, inspire our clients, growing with our clients, because if we don't do the things we're telling them to do, then then there's no point in doing that, right? As you can see with Marisa, she's literally living and breathing what she's giving her clients. And is there like anything else you would want to say to people that are watching the episode, maybe interested in even doing any competitive bikini building? What is one thing that you would leave with them?
I I have a whole box of
One
advice.
thing.
One thing. Okay, okay. Let me think. Um, you just have to start. Honestly, I know that sounds so cliche. I think a lot of women in general want that dream body. They want to look like the person they see on social media. And trust me, I did too. I wanted to be a little skinny mini when I was growing up, or I wanted like more glutes, like my butt. And I'm Asian. We're not genetically gifted with a butt. But it takes time, but it pays full in dividends. It's just about getting started and reach out to me, to a coach. If you want something, if there's a goal that you want and you're not happy at where you are in life right now, make that change, because everything is going to stem from within. Again, sounds cliche, but the way you are at work, the way you are with your partner, your children, your friend group, when you change who you are and you're happy with who you are, everything else falls into place.
Yeah, I love that. So, on the next episode, we'll talk a little bit more about um, just the plans for the future, what it's like now to be fully invested in our business, and then working with clients and maybe even working with each other, because that is what we do in the fitness industry: is bounce ideas off each other. The fitness industry is always growing, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But until then, start and stay active.